Welcome back, beautiful people of the podcasting universe and world. Three Amigos are back for season 8, 25, 30. I don't know. It's been so long since we last recorded, and that's okay. Life happens. We're back today talking pop culture and the most recent release of Deadpool and Wolverine. All three of us are here to talk about it. Spoilers incoming. We watched it. So you don't have to, but we actually encourage you to go watch it because it's a fun movie. We liked it. I liked it. It was great. It was a fun time. It's peak MCU, but let's not delay any further. Boys, how you doing? It's been a minute. How's everyone doing? How are your feelings of this weekend entirely also because it's pretty much pop culture weekend with ComicCon.
Oh yeah, it's been a crazy weekend. With all the pop culture stuff, it's definitely a interesting time to be a whatever you want to call it, nerd, geek,
Yeah,
fanboy,
sure.
superhero thing, whatever. Um, Definitely interesting time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, I'm curious what your guys like initial reactions, hot takes, first reactions to Deadpool uh, were as soon as you left the theater. I mean, Frankie and I saw it together, so I kind of know his, but
Yeah.
as soon as you left the theater, how
Why
were you
don't you
guys
start us
feeling?
off? Yeah. Well, how'd you feel when you left the theater?
Um, I was very, very entertained and
Did you climax?
no, there were certain things about the movie overall that I was like, wasn't sure how I felt about some things, but
Sure.
um, there was, because as you mentioned, spoilers, and I don't think we're gonna go too deep into spoilers, but just for another spoiler warning, when it comes to surprises and cameos, I was just like, holy crap, like that was
Hmm.
amazing. As for the movie as a whole, there's a lot of great in the movie and a couple things that I was like, I don't know. But still a great experience, a great time, a great movie to watch. And I know some people out there, like a buddy of mine was like, oh, I'll probably wait till it's on Disney Plus. No, don't do
No,
that. Go see it.
I don't. Who knows if it even touch there? If it even go there right away?
It might be
Like
a little bit. Well, granted, the first two are on there anyway.
this is
Um,
true. I don't know.
but
Now they're gonna want to keep it in theaters for a while. It already made like $100 million in its first day.
Plus, they have all the different special like cups and popcorn buckets at various different theaters.
Oh
They
yeah, they did
have one.
so
Yeah,
much marketing for this
yeah.
movie.
There's one at a theater. I forgot the name of the theater. It's like a low budget theater, like $8 tickets. But they have a really awesome Wolverine mask popcorn bucket, and I have one of those theaters like 25 minutes from me, and I'm like, I should try to go tonight, see if I can get one.
Yeah, I feel like the sentiment I've been hearing on the internet is that it's fun, which is how I felt. I felt very entertained. Felt like it was a fun movie. I feel like Deadpool movies, it's hard to phrase this correctly. They don't really matter that much. Like Frankie and I talked about this a little bit, but Deadpool, and maybe this is just because like I still kind of associate him with the Fox at like X-Men
Right.
superhero, whatever, like their section of it. But he still doesn't like he didn't doesn't really feel like he's part of the MCU. So I don't know, the movies, I mean, especially after the second Deadpool movie kind of rendered like the entire concept of having stakes in a Deadpool movie to be sort of useless.
Right.
Um, and I guess I don't know. Yeah, not I don't want we don't want to get into the negatives too much right away. But like
Sure, sure.
right off the bat, I had fun. It was probably the most fun I had watching a Marvel movie, like aside from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I think was also the last one I saw. Um, but yeah, I was it was a lot of fun, which I think is what the MCU needed, or just like what Marvel
Right.
needed in general, was like a fun popcorn movie that is pretty easy to enjoy, even if you're like very casual. I think I did hear like a couple people not really, they didn't really know who Gambit was, so uh, your enjoyment of this film might depend on how much you've been following certain stories,
Hmm.
and how familiar you are with certain characters, and behind the scenes stuff, but I think on the surface, it's just a fun movie.
Because I had a couple of points. I know, like, one point being a few years back, you used to tell me, Chris, like back in the day, you say, "Oh, this was a fun movie," and I always thought, "How can a movie be fun?" And then now I like, after some other recent releases, my eyes have been opened up. Like, yeah, that was a fun movie. I now know what you mean by a fun movie. Um,
Yeah.
and then when you
But
said
like,
the behind the
yeah.
scenes stuff, there's like certain casting things I didn't know happened. Like, spoiler warning, the whole Henry Cavill thing. I didn't know he was a possible
No,
option
they
for
kept that a
Wolverine.
secret. They purposely leaked stuff out so things wouldn't get spoiled. Henry
No, I meant
Cavill,
like in the
Blade, all that.
past, wasn't he considered to be a Wolverine in the future at some point?
No,
Okay,
he was just fan casted a lot, but
gotcha.
also so was um
Harry Potter and
Daniel, yeah,
yeah,
Daniel
Daniel Radcliffe.
Radcliffe. He was fan casted a lot, which I was hoping he'd be in there too, but
Did you see when Henry Cavill came in? He did the arm thing from James
Yeah,
Bond. I
he did
missed
do it,
it.
right? He loaded up, right?
Yeah, I missed it. I
He
heard
just
about it, but
likes
I missed
loading up.
Yeah, the load up.
I think I just associated him with loading up every time. He just
Even
walks
though
into the room to get a glass of water, loading up.
Cavalrine.
it's like such an ineffective fighting strategy. Like no one ever does that, but when he does it, it looks fucking awesome. Yeah,
Um,
what is your immediate hot takes, your reaction coming out of Deadpool, Frankie?
I loved it. It was a great time. I'm probably gonna go back and watch it just to see some things maybe that I could have I've missed.
mhm.
Um, it feels like one of those movies you could definitely always go back to and have a great time. Uh, one big person that I follow said it wasn't. It's one of the worst ones, but that's not saying like that's a bad thing. I think it's one, two,
Worst
three,
MCU or worst Deadpool movie?
worst Deadpool. So like one, two, three,
There's
and
only
that's how
three
he
of them.
would
So
rate it. Um, I disagree. I think two, I didn't laugh a lot, if at all. Maybe
yeah.
if anything, I started laughing towards the end credits when he started
Mhm.
going on a rampage, killing himself and doing shit like funny random things throughout the universe or multiverse, whatever you want
Right.
to call it.
Yeah.
And then this one, I was hollering. I was hollering a bit more. I was just chuckling and giggling a lot more in this
This
movie.
one was way funnier.
I thought it was
Yeah.
way
Yeah,
funnier.
which maybe was a reaction from themselves. Maybe they didn't think the second one was that funny.
Yeah,
But
As for
I go. Yeah,
me,
exactly. I agree.
the only thing I really enjoyed about the second one when I think back on it is Juggernaut and then his fight with Colossus because as a kid I used to have this really awesome Juggernaut action figure
Hmm.
back from Kmart if you remember the Kmart days.
Yeah.
And when I saw him in part 2 I was like, "Oh, that's freaking awesome." Like that for
hmm
me was very enjoyable. And in this one the fact that Colossus did like nothing I was like, "Ah."
Yeah, he didn't even say, I'm the fucking Juggernaut.
He didn't,
I
and Juggernaut didn't say anything like
know.
no, no Juggernaut bitch. Colossus didn't do much or anything at all.
Yeah, Colossus wasn't there at all.
But
He was really not in the movie, like
CGI
yeah,
is expensive, I guess. It
yeah.
was already too expensive.
not even like did he even talk to
Yeah,
Wade
he did.
at
He
the
did.
party?
Yeah,
Because
I
he
think
did.
I
like
don't
once during
recall.
the
Yeah,
party.
like where's the Wade happy birthday or some shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Also, all right.
um
So I at first initially, I loved this movie. I thought it was great. As as the geek nerd that I am, I once the movie and maybe even during the movie, I was already feeling like I love this movie for what it is, for what it's doing. I guess what the main disappointment is, I always thought the X-Men universe that we grew up watching was separate from Deadpool's. Like they were just completely different timelines,
Right,
especially
right.
now afterwards, with the whole TVA thing. So I was a little disappointed to that. And I get it why they're probably doing it, but the timeline technically doesn't make sense. As I was explaining this to Chris yesterday, Anthony, I don't know if you had time to like look at the timeline. So technically, the Logan that died it
mhm.
is the Logan from 2000s that we saw growing up. So he's dead, but also technically Deadpool being in the same timeline means that 20 uh it should be 2032, 2035 because Logan takes place in 2029. Uh and then thus with with Logan being in the same universe as Deadpool, he technically should be dead because of what happened with in Logan because Charles pretty much eliminated all the mutants because he had seizures
Hmm.
and killed like the X-Men essentially. Um
But what
but
about
like and then
the healing
because there is
factor
no
too, right?
X-Men, like Colossus shouldn't exist either. Like
Right.
nor Nega Teenage Warhead. The Mansion shouldn't have existed in Deadpool 2. None of those like characters should exist if it takes place in the same timeline as Logan
Yeah,
and
because didn't
Deadpool.
they say Deadpool's universe was getting erased because his anchor was dead, and it
Exactly,
was
yeah.
yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
My whole thing is 'cause I know they made these jokes about the multiverse and trying to stop doing the multiverse shit because it's been fucking up Marvel,
Sure.
since they did it. But um, within the side note of the ComicCon news, it's like, well, are you guys gonna stop the multiverse thing or not? But that's another topic for later.
Yeah, for sure.
But. Um, Funny side note that I want to mention, you guys remember in the opening credits they were playing the NSYNC song,
Hmm.
and I was at a karaoke thing last night, and there's this guy who's a regular who apparently sings a lot of Rob Zombie, but yesterday he was singing Bye Bye Bye, and my friend was trying to like bug him about it, like, oh, you didn't sing your Rob Zombie, and I was like, let me tell you why, and I said, correct me if I'm wrong, dude, it's because you just saw Deadpool and Wolverine. And he started laughing and was like, yep.
I
And I
feel
was
like
like,
we
that's
should
nice.
take a moment. That was maybe the best opening credit
Oh
sequence
yeah,
that
Yeah.
it
they've ever
was.
done in a Marvel movie, right? Like
Yeah.
that was incredible. That was
Oh yeah.
incredible. Um,
Probably like the
yeah,
best. I don't remember the first one's opening credits. Did they do one like that?
probably.
Because the second one was him hunting down all those guys, and that was just all right. This one was so much better.
Yeah. I think that I don't know if I agree with Frankie that this movie is rewatchable because there's a
Really?
part of me, yeah, there's a part of me that feels like I mean, I guess to get into spoilers, there's a scene in this movie where three former Marvel characters, was it Blade, Elektra, and Gambit?
One that never got actually
Yeah,
its dues.
are revealed. And each of them is done kind of the same way they did the Spider-Man reveals, in the sense of like they each get an entrance, like
Mm-hmm.
there's clear applause breaks and like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
like breaks for these reactions.
Hmm.
And so, and just like the film in general, which I don't have a problem with fan service. Like I'm one of the 12 people on Earth that liked episode 7 of Star Wars because it was so nostalgic and fan servicey. But I do think it does kind of hurt the ability to rewatch the movie just because I think a lot of my enjoyment was from not no, like literally having no idea
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
that Channing Tatum and Wesley Snipes were in the movie. Uh, no clue
Fair.
at all. Like no clue
Yeah.
about Henry Cavill, no clue that they were going to show, brown suit Wolverine
Mm-hmm.
fighting the Hulk and
Yep.
all the different Wolverines that they showed briefly. Um, so like I can't experience any of that again for the first time. And I think that a lot of that did impact my enjoyment of the movie. The same with like Wolverine putting the mask on for the first time. Like there's a lot of first evers in this movie that you can't experience again. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can't say for sure that I wouldn't enjoy the movie as much the second time, but I can
Right.
definitely say that like a lot of my enjoyment was from the fan service moments.
Mm-hmm.
And you only get to do those once. Like I can't experience, any of the, the long one take bus fight scene or the scene where they fight in the car. Like these are all great
Mm-hmm.
things, but after you see it once, I don't know, it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat fatality. It's like you watch it once, then you're
Right.
like, yeah, I mean,
See, for me,
it's,
it's the
it
whole
gets
thing.
progressively like less fun. I think that like the
Right.
more you would watch it. Um,
Well, I'm the opposite. It's always going to be fun for me in a way,
Like for
even if
yeah,
it's not
which
the
me,
first
I
time.
could totally understand that. I think as much as I
Yeah, for
enjoy the
you.
fan service, I don't know if I like, yeah, I don't know if seeing Gambit come out again, I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, Gambit's in the movie. I already know that. So I'm not, or like, Chris Evans is, which I had no fucking idea was in the movie. Like I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's the Human Torch in this one. Like, yeah, I don't know if going in knowing all that, I don't know if I'd enjoy the movie as much. Like I might start realizing some of the flaws more than I did the first time because I was a little blinded by like, oh my God, all this shit is happening that somehow the internet didn't spoil. And that made a pretty big impact on my enjoyment.
Because for me, the going back another time would be as the obvious reason to look for more hidden things that I've missed the first time around. Um, like I don't know how many people caught that when they're fighting in the car and the radio's changing songs. The first song playing was the Greatest Showman song.
Yeah.
Then you have other Easter eggs are hidden in the background that we may have missed. Because the whole surprise of each cameo, yeah, you get that first experience, and you're in the chair like holy shit, and then when you watch it again, it's like, oh, here comes Electra, here comes Wesley Snipes. So I get what you're saying, Chris, and I also get what Frankie says about going back to watch it and still be enjoyed and everything. But with the whole Easter eggs and cameos, it makes me think of other things I want to see. Like, what if Chris Evans was Captain America in this movie? And what if they possibly did a fight between Captain America and Wolverine? My mindset being soldier versus soldier, adamantium versus vibranium, America versus Canada kind of thing. Um, but aside from that, my biggest concern is, are they gonna do a steelbook case, and am I able to get one when it comes out? Because it's
Um,
gotta be awesome.
Walmart.
And
I'd be surprised if that doesn't go up this weekend. I'd be really
Oh,
surprised.
pre-orders. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
surprising.
The hype is like this is the highest. It's Comic-Con, the movie just dropped. Like this is maximum hype. If you release the pre-orders for the Steelbook, yeah, people will go nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
Because I'm a little kind of fell out of paying attention to what phase Marvel is in. Um, in this movie, Deadpool makes a lot of references to like Marvel sucks now. Wolverine, it's nice to have you, but you're joining at kind of a low point. The
Hmm.
multiverse is bad. All this stuff is bad. Then he also refers to himself as Marvel Jesus. Does this movie uh, save the MCU? I guess if you're someone who thinks that the MCU has kind of been trending downwards, does this movie save the MCU? I don't know where it fits technically on like a timeline thing because I kind of gave up on paying
Ah.
attention to MCU
mm,
timelines,
Yeah.
but
I have 2 points for that.
Sure.
Or points. One being, I don't think it saves the MCU. I think it's more so of a here's a break from all the MCU bullshit that's been going on, and let's make fun of it. And then after you have this break, go back into what they're planning next. But my second note, real quickly, is Target is having pre-orders for one edition of the movie, but I can't tell if it's steelbook or not. But it has like posters and cards or whatever, stuff like that. Oh, and vinyls
Oh,
for
but
40
that's weird because
bucks.
Target also's cutting off physical media, so
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a Band-Aid.
Mm,
I think it's just a Band-Aid. Uh, or like a quick refresher.
yeah, a
Hey, stop.
little shot of caffeine,
Yeah, exactly.
a little bump of
Sorry,
little
a
Bill
side
Bill the
note.
Snowman.
It's
No,
not
no.
a movie at Target, it's just a vinyl collection.
Sure.
Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna cut that out. Um, when
Y'all
it
let them know.
comes when it comes to to this, I think it's a Band-Aid. It's for sure just a Band-Aid. It's not something that fixes anything or everything or forgives what they've done. I mean, right now what they're doing at San Diego Comic-Con is trying to basically fix what a certain individual did to them by fucking up everything because he's a piece of shit. Uh, that's what they're fixing, and that's what's another issue is just like knowing what your actors are doing or giving faith that your actors are good people. Mm, And that's no one's fault other than the individual themselves. So with this, we're all lucky and blessed that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are decent human beings who obviously did this for the money, especially Hugh. He said he was done. He came back, did this for the fans, but also for the money. Let's face it.
Yeah, he
Um,
did this for the money.
he
Let's
did
be
this for the
real.
money. Like no amount. I think no amount of fanfare for him would put him in yellow spandex. It
No.
goes back to that first line back into 2000's X-Men movie. But they did make it cool and it worked. It's fantastic. So Does this fix everything? No. Obviously, like I said, it's just a band-aid. I think it's more so a launching pad point to hit reset and like telling everyone, and the best person to tell you is Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool saying like, "Hey, yeah, don't worry. Like I'm telling you as the actor that wrote this part help inspire this character more is telling you Marvel's telling me we know it's shit and we hear you." It's like the writer's room or like creative in a wrestling show or like for WWE or AEW, like, yeah, like we hear you, we're gonna give you what you want in the fan. We know this sucks or something like that. Whereas, you know, before is like we say something and they still don't care. They're pushing forward because they think it'll work. And I think the Disney Plus shows were evident to that. Like they had a good run with it. They were doing good stuff with it. It just I think they I think they were just pushing too much content out, and that's what happens when you launch your own network when you're supposed to create original stuff too, I guess. You know, trying to follow suit with what Netflix is doing, except Netflix kind of just throws shit at the wall and see what sticks. Because with every good little thing that they have, there's a lot of bad uh thrown in there with what the movies they make and the shows that they create. Yeah. So with Disney Plus, like it was kind of like an exciting thing, knowing that we're gonna get a library full of stuff, but also they shot themselves in the foot because they had to, they had to make this work by putting in content in there. And I think that's another reason why the Marvel universe has kind of suffered is because of the increase in content. What was it? What's the saying? It's more uh I
What,
forget the saying.
quantity over quality,
Yeah,
quality over
exactly. Yeah,
quantity.
that's what and but
Yeah.
people have been saying they want the quality over quantity. They want the good quality stuff. They'll wait for it because like you've even said it, and we've even said it probably here in this podcast. It was like we missed it how it felt like a special thing. We had
Yeah.
one probably in like the beginning of the year, February. We had one in the spring, summer, two maybe if that, and then and one with beginning of the year. Maybe we got one in the summer. So like four, it was like 2 to maybe 4 a year, and then like we got pumped up with
Yeah.
five, and then we got the shows. So like, it got crazy.
The shows is where it really started to go off the rails.
Yeah.
There's a really good joke in
Yeah.
this movie that I think it runs a little bit deeper than maybe
Yeah.
it gets credit for, but
Yeah. The season one,
um,
episode 5.
when they get to the wasteland and the giant smoke monster shows up, and Deadpool's like, "Oh my gosh, that's the giant smoke monster from Loki
Loki
season 1,
season one,
episode
episode
5." Which is like it's a funny joke, and then it's also like a testament to like, holy shit, you have to really be watching everything Marvel makes right down to the
Yeah.
exact episode.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you go see a totally unrelated movie, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this thing?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's from that show that came out 3 years ago in season 1 on the fifth episode. They showed it once and then like never again. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I didn't watch that, but thanks for explaining where it's from.
I mean, if you're a Marvel fan, you should watch Loki because that's probably their best show that they've created.
But there's so
I hear you, and I think,
much,
and here's
dude.
my little theory about that too is just like Marvel really wanted to appeal to us, to the people who have been consuming this shit since we were kids, to everyone or to the new fans as well. But again, like they just can't. Like it's a good thing for me. Like I like watching this stuff, even as bad as it is, because I'll say if it's bad. If it's good, it's just good. If it's fine, whatever. But then there's people who are just like who feel like they need a break, and then that's who are complaining, and that's every right. And the casual fan deserves to complain because you're consuming this stuff as someone who just takes what's for granted on screen, not any indication of the history beforehand, and that's fine as someone who knows the history of a lot of this stuff and is consuming this stuff, as much as I'm enjoying it, yeah, you're getting to me, Marvel, but I love the stuff you're giving to me, but can you make it better? Like there's again that quality over quantity over quality stuff is what I think they kind of delusioned over. They're just so pumped with putting stuff out and call it excitement, call it greed. They're trying to make the buck. They're trying to just
Yeah, they
drown.
launched a streaming service and they needed content, and
Yeah,
most of that content was currently owned by Netflix because they licensed all the movies over there.
yeah,
So there was a time when Disney Plus didn't have any of the Avengers movies. It didn't have Black Panther. It didn't like and they just needed content, so they started developing a lot of their own shit, and then it kind of boiled over where they were like, "Oh my God, do we really need like a an Echo TV show? Do we
Yeah.
really need like a Moon Knight
Or
TV
She-Hulk.
show? Like these are not,
Moon Knight
you
movie
know,
would have been better, rated
but
R.
like
Ugh.
these are characters that I'm sure have fan bases,
Hmm.
but you can only hit the jackpot with turning a character like Iron Man into like a mainstream popular character so many times before people are like, yeah, I don't really care about this one. I do
Which is
have,
what that's the point of what happened with the Fox stuff. They kind of sold those rights because those were like a bit minor
yeah,
and they didn't mind giving those away, especially in such bulk, even though they gave two of the biggest teams ever in comic history away, but they took the minor
yeah,
ones as well. So it's a there's plenty of videos out there
yeah,
talking about the history of how Marvel almost died, and now, especially the comics, and then they licensed this stuff out, and now we're at a point where it's like, do
Which is
we
why
need
Sony has
more stuff?
Spider-Man, right?
Do we need more shit? Do we want more shit? And the answer is yes and no to me. At least to me, the answer is yes and no. I still want more stuff, but I'm okay if it's just twice a year movies,
yeah.
twice a year. Give me twice a year a solid, good fucking show.
I have two hot takes, and I'm curious to hear your guys' reactions to these.
Oh
The
boy.
first one is that I don't think Deadpool works in the MCU. I think that Deadpool as a character fundamentally does not work within Marvel's cinematic. Every movie is connected to each other, all these fucking timeline variant bullshit, all of this is connected. I don't think this character works in that scenario.
Hmm.
Because Deadpool, whether you like it or not, has always been like he is an allegory for the audience, a
Hmm.
vehicle of putting the audience in the movie.
He's like a fan.
Yeah, but then he's also presented as having some level of control over what's happening in the movie. Like he's aware that they're making a movie.
Hmm.
In the Deadpool video game from years ago, he writes the video game. Like he reads the original script and then changes it and writes it himself.
Hmm.
So I don't know if this all kind of like all-knowing character um that breaks the fourth wall as often as Deadpool does. I don't know if that character works in the MCU because literally nobody else does that. And
Right.
so it kind of takes some of the more serious movies that I think they're going to try to make, but then simultaneously they're going to put Deadpool into those movies, which leads me into my second hot take, is that I think Ryan Reynolds is either being groomed or put in a position to kind of take over for Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. I think that they have needed a face of the MCU for a
Mm.
long time.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
It can't be Tom Holland because they have a tricky issue with Sony.
Yeah.
It can't be Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans because I think they've just both kind of aged out of doing all the press and being in like a bunch of different movies.
Hmm.
And the same with like Hugh Jackman. But I think the one person who could probably pick up that mantle, and it was supposed to be Chadwick Boseman, but I
Ah,
think the one person who could probably pick up that mantle is Ryan Reynolds. He's charismatic, he's funny, seems like a nice guy. He seems to genuinely care about the movies being good and the characters that are in the movies and all of that. I don't know who else could have gotten like Wesley Snipes and Jennifer Garner and Channing Tatum to all come back,
yeah.
or Channing Tatum to show up for the first time ever in the movie, and the same with Deadpool 2. We got a bunch of characters, and
Hmm.
but I think it's a double-edged sword because simultaneously, while you do have this guy who I think is a really good face of the brand, and also probably takes a little bit off of Kevin Feige from having to like promote and hype everything. Ryan Reynolds is
Hmm.
just he's very good at marketing, he's very good at advertising. His face is everywhere. Mint Mobile, he owns a fucking liquor company, he owns a soccer team. Like
Oh
he
yeah, he
just he does
does.
so much shit. But unfortunately, the character he plays, I don't know how much sense having essentially an invincible character
Hmm.
that always knows that there's a movie being made about him. I don't know how much sense that character
So,
makes in, Secret Wars and
mhm.
Avengers 5, because those are supposed to be very high stakes. And I think then there's also a part of me that's like, will people get sick of Deadpool if you put him at the
Yes.
forefront of the Avengers? Because the Avengers don't really have like a leader right now.
Yes.
Not
Sorry,
that he
Anthony
needs to be
Mackie.
in the Avengers. He could, be in the X-Force or, whatever. Um, and I'm sure they'll do an X-Force movie at some point because I already have like half of the group
Right.
cast at this point. But I think I'm in this weird spot of like, based on ComicCon, it feels like there is an attempt being made to like position Ryan Reynolds as this is our guy. He's about to be the face of like the one of the highest earning Marvel movies in like the last, I don't know, since Endgame or Infinity War or whatever. The movie's set a whole bunch of records already. It's good, it's fun. People like the character. They love that, he got Wolverine to come back, as well as a big bag of money. But like, I don't know how I just don't think this character works, especially because Deadpool's an R-rated character,
Yeah.
and they don't make R-rated movies. This is the first one ever. So if you're gonna put this character in future films, Uh, are you gonna make them R-rated? You're gonna have Deadpool not cursing, not cutting guys in half? That whole opening credit sequence is partially hilarious because he's just performing fatalities on these poor TVA agents. Um, I don't know. I'm curious to know what you guys think about the future of Deadpool in the
So,
MCU now that he's in the MCU, which I think also felt a little weird because like this whole TVA like timeline. Essentially, in this movie, there's just a rogue TVA agent that just wants to like be in charge, but then there's another villain with Cassandra who wants to take over the timelines or own the wasteland.
Hmm.
It gets a little
so he
Sure.
here's
muddy.
my hang on.
Um, just to jump in, I think Deadpool needs to be done in increments. Uh, I think you're right. I guess they're searching for that one character that could potentially take up the mantle for Iron Man. For Cap, it was supposed to be Chadwick because he is a Marvel character, and then there is uh Tom, but unfortunately he can't because of the shitty thing that Sony has, and they're not gonna let
Mhm.
that go because that is their cash cow right now.
Right.
Um, so it's difficult to say what they do with Deadpool. You added a very loaded thing there and just like went on a beautiful, beautiful just declaration of what basically what happens after this. And
So
so sorry, one sec. What happens after this is like it's literally up to Kevin. It's up to the writers and it's up to the actors essentially to accept these roles as they come. Like, what are you
Sure.
supposed to do? Uh, to put on screen. Because at the end of the day, these actors don't give a shit if the movie's good. They're making money. But given the way Madam Web went, you may do want to care how good the movie is because it could hurt your fucking reputation.
Oh, you
Sydney
didn't like
Sweeney's probably gonna
Morbius?
recover. She's probably gonna recover because she's beautiful and she has a name still attached, but
Are you?
she
Wait,
can't
wait,
do
wait,
shit like that.
hold on a second. Are you telling me you're not excited for Craven?
Fuck off. So basically, just to end my little brief tangent is like, I I I'm gonna I'm accepting what they gave me, but that's it. I'm not gonna hold my breath. In fact, we'll discuss it in a different podcast about what's happening again today with or this weekend with Comic-Con. Um, but if this is what they're gonna give me, then yes, I'll be very excited, but I'll be excited tentatively. I'm not gonna give them my wallet, not that I have to anymore. For all the movies that come out, I'm not jumping. I'll definitely wait for Disney Plus, which is another win for them because they open Disney Plus. I don't have to take my ass to the movie theaters to go watch something or pay money to go watch a movie that is just okay or that people are berating just because it has women in it.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ant.
so I was gonna say when it comes to a face of the MCU going forward, it's very interesting to think about who it would be because all the regulars that we loved from the past however many years it's been are no longer doing those roles. But I think there was a few jokes in the movie that kind of maybe hints of what's going to happen. Like the whole joke about, oh, they're going to make you do Wolverine till you're 90. And at the end of the movie, when they part ways, he was like, oh, I'll see you around. He's like, probably not. So I took it as we may never see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again unless they give him an even fatter paycheck. And then with Deadpool, when he was meeting with Happy Hogan and he was like, you're not going to be an Avenger, whatever it was, we don't need you, or you're not fit, part of the team,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't fit in. That could be also a hint of Deadpool won't be the head of the Avengers or MCU, the face of it. Because as Chris also said, all the stuff that Deadpool is about doesn't really
Yeah,
fit in with the whole
it
universe.
doesn't.
So it could be a little hint of, hey, we know you want to see him in the Avengers. It ain't happening.
It's not happening.
Yeah, future of Deadpool is really interesting to think about now because I think it's funny. Like as Frank and I watched this movie, I kept going back and forth. I'm like, this either feels like you could realistically make it the last Deadpool movie, or you could make it the first Deadpool movie in like a fresh trilogy or however. I mean, they don't really do trilogies anymore at Marvel. They just keep making more movies with the
hmm
character in it. Yeah, so the future of Deadpool is interesting to think about. I don't know where it's headed, but it seems like we're probably going to get a lot more Deadpool and probably at least a little bit more Wolverine. So, yeah,
At
fun
least one
movie
more.
overall. I think maybe logically it starts to fall apart a little bit here and there, but I had fun. It's
Yeah.
really all that matters.
No, what matters is now I got to trade in my car for a Honda Odyssey. That's what matters.
Honda Odyssey sales are going through the roof.
That was a good bit. And that also suggests that means that fucking Honda really paid to be in this fucking movie. That's kind of crazy. Is this the future of cinema? Fucking paying ads paying to be in
Or
movies now?
is this Ryan Reynolds' way of saying that he now has some kind of ownership of Honda?
Right. Knowing
Maybe.
him, he probably does.
Probably because he's fucking rich now. Fuck.
He's like, I did it for Blake. Okay, I did it for Blake.
I guess that's gonna do it for this episode, folks. Stay tuned for our nerd culture weekend review of San Diego Comic-Con. We are not there live, and that's okay. So fuck off
One day though, one
one
day.
day.
One day.
Don't judge us. We're poor.